Whai te mautanga te marama, kia whai take ngā mahi katoa, tūmaia, tūkaha, aroha atu, aroha mai, tākaui a tātou katoa. I tuia I te ata, te whakaro ke roto, torona o te kura. Te haka no iruia, te repo are, torona tua kuringa ringa, te ruia o te kura. Kia ora, thank you everybody. A warm welcome to everybody that is here with us today. We've just got a couple of people in the gallery, but welcome to everybody joining us online. We have one of our board members online as well, Michelle, and that's great, thanks. And yeah, I just want to remind everybody today that we are live streaming. And this is recorded for YouTube, and the link can be found on the agenda. Okay, so we will start our meeting today with our apologies. So we have Sarah for lateness, and Jackie is not here.
She's sick.
So, did I have a mover for those? Sunita, Daryl, all in favour? I carried, thank you. Moving on to declarations of interest. We have any today? None. Fabulous. And confirmation of previous minutes. Did I have a mover? Thanks, Tim. And seconder, Sunita, thank you. All in favour? Fabulous, carried. Today we don't have any public forums and we don't have any deputations. So we are going to move on to the presentation of petitions. And we have Paul McMahon with us today. So welcome you to the table, Paul. Just a reminder that obviously we're live streamed and we're recording for YouTube. So it will be available after this as well. And Paul, I believe that you have requested some extra time. So Liz.
Yes, understanding orders the board needs to resolve the extra time before Paul starts. So we need a suggestion, please, Madam Chair.
So suggestion, you've requested 10 minutes, Paul, similar to a deputation. Yeah. That's fabulous, too easy. All right, so do I have a mover for that?
Sorry, clarification, 10 minutes excluding questions as understanding orders?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So Nita and Tim.
Whichever way.
Okay, all in favour. Thank you. Too easy. All right, Paul. Well, we've got all of your information in the petition in our big tin can. Thank you for supplying all that for us. And when you're ready, fire away.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just note, I'm Paul McMahon. I live in Wilson. Just passing out these copies of some of the photos that I wanted to draw your attention. So just a bit of background. Wilson Village is located within a highly deprived community about 500 metres from my home. It's declared as WISE. The vicinity includes areas with higher populations of Māori and of the sort of people of Christchurch City, and fewer full-time workers, and significantly lower median incomes in both Christchurch City and Aotearoa as well. But there can be little doubt that it is a high burden of deprivation and alcohol-related harm. The streets within a 500-metre radius of the Wilson Village are littered with empty alcohol containers. What is most upsetting to us in Wilson Village is a recent increase in public drinking and intoxication. I mean that in the last 18 months to a year. There's an increase in public drinking and intoxication on Ferry Road, where a group of mainly men frequently sit on the street furniture drinking alcohol, leering at women, including my wife, steering school children, begging for money, so that they can purchase cheap alcohol from off licenses. As you don't know, there's 2 water schools and a new world there. So from my discussions with local business people in the area and others, they agree that it's significant and increased alcohol related harm in the area, which is why several of them posted my petition, which you have, asking for an alcohol ban in the village. I didn't promote or do door knocking or anything with the petition. I did put it on a Facebook group, and most of the signatures were gathered by shopkeepers themselves. So that includes hairdressers, a dairy, a barber, pharmacy, and others. So in a recent hearing, the Wilson pharmacist noted in his submission, there is frequent litter, graffiti and vandalism in Wilson Village. We have been robbed 3 times since 2011, once at 9 points. Wilson has issues with people consuming alcohol on the street and loitering around, particularly on the street furniture on either side of Ferry Road, but particularly on his side. These people typically consume RTDs like Woodstock and Cody's, as well as cheap silver beers. Despite the fact there is a public toilet, which is time of writing out of order, on the footpath side of the community library, we frequently have people urinating behind our store underneath the window we used to charge our e-card through. It smells and it's pleasant. And I did send you a link to a video. That's the short version. And that video was taken in that location there by the speaker. The council also had to remove, as some of you may be aware, the seat beside the community library back towards the road due to people spending all night drinking. But his objection on the November the 3rd, 2021, 2 police cars and at least 3 officers manhandled drunk into one of their patrol cars because he had been harassing people and stumbling around on the road in front of the pharmacy. On Wednesday, the 15th of June, my father was visiting me and had his car parked out back to the pharmacy, and his test automatically reported a very unusual guy standing by my white Nissan Leaf, sculling a 1.25 litre of nitro to 7.9 drinks. Arriving from the direction of the passage to Ferry Road. The man sculls a drink, throws up, and sculls a drink again a number of times. So afterwards, we also found a pool of what was likely to be urine on the car, found 2 empties, nitro and an LDR by 12% beer. Earlier in June 2022, there was an incident where there was a whole group of people drinking alcohol from mid-afternoon to about 7 p.m. on the street furniture by the community library. They were very loud, yelling at people abusively and listening to music down there on the speaker. Just prior to them leaving, one of them threw a bottle at the old GP's office, which I own, and was smashed. So this is the pharmacist. We do not attempt to intervene or approach these people because they are often at groups and highly intoxicated, as well as abusive and threatening. We just resigned to it being this way. Incidents like these every week, notably on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. A lot of our customers have told us they've been verbally abused by people drinking outside, including being challenged to fights. Which is why I had a number of customers sign a petition to have the alcohol ban implemented in the village. There's also a problem that a lot of off-licenses appear to continue to sell to these people despite knowing the problem they're causing in the village. They also stock products that are irresponsible to sell in economic areas like this. So that's the end of that quote there. So I am aware that an alcohol ban is a very blunt tool and it's not a solution in itself. And I do not wish to criminalise people who are poor and addicted to alcohol, which is why I approached Housing First to see if they knew a bit about what's going on. Well, it turns out there are only a few rough sleepers around this, and they are not part of the problem. So what I am asking, seeking your support, is to start the council process to look at an alcohol ban in Wilson Village. And furthermore, I'd like to seek your help in engaging social agencies, the police, local business and local residents to make sure Wilson Village is safe and pleasant environment for everyone. I'll just talk to you just through this photo. So this is 500 metre radius. This photo lies from the Wilson Village, and this is the area approximately that I walked around and picked those photos of all the empties and stuff. That's where they're from. Actually, it's a bit narrower than that. You might say 300 metres. And that was after a month after the Mother of the Planet, which would have removed the rubbish too. This there is this is the and which shows, so the darker it is, the more deprived it is. And this one is slightly different. That's the index of multiple deprivation, which is has a bit more statistics added to it. Just want to show you that picture there. That picture is somebody who, this isn't the first time that they have, that he's bought a box of Cody's, don't know where from, which is bourbon and Coke, and has drunk it sitting there. That's you can see the pharmacy. So the old doctor is right behind him. The pharmacy is to what is my left. There's some more pictures of him there, and there's lots of other. So this evidence was accumulated for a hearing that recently had, as well as for this particular matter. Happy to take questions now, but what I'm asking it for is support for the council process to be initiated, so that you can get everybody around the table.
Makes it a lot easier for us to go straight to council with the information that you've given us and start that process. So we really appreciate it. And obviously, we've had people come to us in the past with similar information, but having it all laid out on the table is really, really useful. So thank you so much for that. Questions for Paul? Jake.
Thanks, Paul. Hey, you mentioned you spoke to Housing First about this. Did they have any view on the merit or otherwise of the liquor ban itself, or liquor bans in general?
Well, it was a short conversation at the launch of the Orange Sky. I had other conversations with individual people, but they understood my desire to protect for public safety, but also not to marginalise people further. And they sort of saw the merit of a tighter rather than a wide area liquor ban, because really it's about protecting the amenity of the store, local stores and that kind of thing, rather than saying, trying to push people out of Woolston.
Thanks, Paul. I might have missed it, but have you spoken to the police at all?
I've been at a 2-day hearing where the police were present, and the police objected to the granting of a change of ownership licence on the basis of the high level of alcohol-related harm in the area. So we haven't talked specifically about the merits of a ban, but I imagine they'll be very interested in being involved in that discussion.
Hey, Paul, thank you for the work that you've put into this. It's super helpful. Just to get us more of a sense of the scope of the problem, how long? Can you not hear me properly?
Now.
Yeah.
Yay! Sorry about that. So, Paul, thank you for the work you've done on this. All hear me now?
Yay. I'm just going to try to turn it up as well. Oh, there we go.
I'm being fancy pants with my headset, but maybe it's not helping. Anyway, so I'm just interested in how long it took to get the signatures and what period of time the photos were taken over.
So apart from the photo of on the street furniture there, and the photos from the fridge, which from various different times, all the photos of the rubbish, I believe, were taken on a single day over about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Cool. And how long did you have it out to get the signatures?
So I had the electronic signature out for our electronic petition out for a while. Sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head. But then when the electronic version wasn't as useful as I had hoped, so then when I put it in the it was out for about a period of about a month, I think.
Wow. So, yeah. So obviously there's quite a lot of concern given the number of signatures you got. What do you think's driving? So it sounds like it's getting worse. Is that correct? And if so, what do you think is driving that, Paul?
So, I mean, there are a number of things that compound alcohol-related harm, but what appears to have happened is that in through the COVID period, police have had too much work, and they haven't been able to do their keeping an eye on a lot of the people that they usually keep an eye on. But the other is growing housing costs, and so when social situations get more difficult, people are liable to find ways of relieving that stress. And I don't know. I mean, there's lots of things going on. I mean, we've heard school principals, so school principals of Waikura and Te Aratai have both noted that families seem to be experiencing more alcohol-related and drug-related stress. So it's not simply a Worcester thing; it's a Christchurch thing.
Right. So I guess the last question is, in terms of, like, this seems to me that it's a process that you're looking at, right? So, and we can ask staff to have a look at imposing an alcohol ban, but you also talked about engaging with police and maybe agencies. Do you mean that separately, or is that something that will come up as part of investigating imposing an alcohol ban?
Well, I think as part of a process, all the agencies and council should all be involved in assessing the merits.
Yeah,
I'm not wedded to that as a particular solution, but it is a viable way of protecting one aspect of the amenity and beginning to address some of the issues that have come up.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, I may be able to help here. As part of if the board so chooses to support the petition and the alcohol ban, part of the staff report, as you will see in the alcohol ban process I sent to you, police are contacted and talked to during gathering of information.
so although Paul mentioned sort of agencies, plural, including police, so are other agencies involved, Liz, or is it, and I did read that, but I just can't recall.
That staff do talk to other agencies when the research is done to see if the alcohol ban is suitable for Woolston Village.
And I would, medical officer of house alcohol licensing team, for instance, I'm sure, who are at the hearing. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought.
So, but I've got another question from Daryl Leonardi.
Thank you. Paul, you've said that you're not wedded to it as a solution. If you're not wedded to it as a solution, then what do you see as potential other steps that might be suitable?
Well, that's a question that has many different answers. That a big part of the solution would be the off licenses, refusing to sell to people who they know have issues and who are causing issues. It would be also having them imposing a minimum price and a minimum price per item, and it would mean not stocking certain items as well. Also, I guess you need to find engage. The community needs to have ways of dealing with issues of antisocial behaviour and places, people that they can call and contact. So at the moment, people just like don't want to engage with those people because they're worried, they're intimidated, and knowing that they have if somebody is drinking in public, that they can call the police and say someone's breaking the liquor ban, makes it easier to get the police engaged. And that's part of the problem. At the moment, if you call the police and say someone is sitting out there in things to do and then operate.
Supplementary question. So am I reading you right that if some actions are put into place to mitigate problems as you see them now, the council may not necessarily have to rush towards potential alcohol?
Well, I'm not suggesting that the council rush towards it, but I'm suggesting that we use the process and look at the viability and whether there might be some other option.
Yanni? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate that you've reached out to Housing First. Have you reached out to MSD or Waikura? Because I mean, yeah, I appreciate that Housing First is doing one part of the job. There's been a noticeable increase.
I mean, I guess the thing is, I am in its current configuration. I'm not sure what role planning order would have.
Oh, okay. So
I know that there is a change going on within planning order that maybe there's more social supports available, but I'm not sure what role that has.
I wonder maybe if the board could try and meet with MSD and Waikura and just talk through, because certainly the behaviour still reinforces the feedback that I've had from people in the area as well, and it seems to coincide with maybe some emergency housing provision.
And, but I guess I appreciate the questions, but the issue is not housing, lack of housing. It may be housing stress exacerbated. The issue is public intoxication and antisocial related.
And I think what you, Rota Roy's had a similar issue with emergency housing, and so I think, and as you said, like, you know, it's certainly not about criminalising people that are vulnerable, trying to find solutions. So, you know, I just wonder whether it would be worth engaging both agencies to understand what some of their strategies are around it. But look, I totally appreciate the focus today. And maybe it's more of a role for the board to engage with those agencies as well.
Yeah. Coming from one of them, sorry.
We have the housing trust coming.
Yeah, so we can, we do have a briefing with them, so we can have a conversation.
I think it'd be good.
We can start it with them anyway.
Yeah, with MSD.
All right, well, thank you so much, Paul, and I totally agree with you. I think this is a tool that we can use and not necessarily to fix it, but definitely a really good start to doing some more investigation work into the issues that are happening in the area.
If I may add, I was former head of the Business Association,
Yeah.
did say that they tried to get an alcohol ban some years ago.
Yeah.
And I wasn't aware of that. And they didn't feel that they were treated with the understanding of patience with the council and institutions. So
Yeah.
it'd be good if we can take these things seriously.
Absolutely, and I think back then it was kind of like, we can't force it, so we're just not going to do it. But I think you're right, it's about working with people closer. So thank you again, we really, really appreciate your time, and we will look at a resolution now.
Thank you.
So there's a couple of ways that we can go, but I think that looking at the board requesting a staff report to the board recommending implementation of an alcohol ban in Woolston Village based on the evidence provided by Paul McMahon today. Does that sound something that people are comfortable with? All good online? You can hear me? Sorry, I've got to put the phone on again. Cool, okay. We're good?
Yeah,
So
sorry.
do I have a mover for that? Jake and Lisa? All in favour? Good, thank you so much, and thank you, Paul, and we'll keep you up to date with any new things coming from the work that is happening around that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thanks, board. We are moving on now to a Power Children's Library building disposal. We have Barry and Paul with us. And board members, it is page 33 of your agenda. Just to remind you that we are live streaming and it's being recorded. But thank you so much for meeting with us today, and in your own time, far away.
So thanks very much. I'll take it, the report has been read and circulated in with you. Is there any particular parts that you'd like me to talk through? Or shall we go directly to questions? Happy to give you an overview if that's what you'd like. But if it's been reading.
I'm sure it's all being read by people. Yeah, cool. All right, well, we can jump straight into questions then.
Can we try Sarah first, because she keeps
Sarah?
stepping off and on.
Hello. Oh, she's frozen again.
Sorry, I can't raise my hand for some reason.
We can hear you far away. Oh, or not. Oh, maybe turn your, I know we need to see you, but maybe.
Yeah, hi. My sound may be dodgy.
Turn your camera off.
Yeah, try turning your camera off.
Can you hear me now? I've just turned my video. My video is off.
Oh, okay.
It is.
Not here.
It is off.
So Sarah, shall I pose your question that you've sent to me by email?
Yes, I think you did that.
Sarah has written to me, because she's dropping in and off her internet's playing up.
Yeah.
Sarah has a concern about us removal of the power library head of the EIO, etc. Sarah would like the board to note the staff recommendation removal request. We go ahead with the EIO, sorry, and then report back on options as a result of that process.
Right. Well, you can just speak to that.
She'll be back.
Cool. Were there any other questions, Michelle?
Sorry, what did Sarah say? Or are we waiting for further clarification? I just didn't quite understand what the point was.
She's concerned about approving the removal of the library head of the expression of interest process.
Oh, okay, the order of it, right. Okay, so the question that I had as well is the way that it's framed. It talks about EOIs from commercial operators or not-for-profit. And would that include a commercial operator? Would that include a person, for example, that might just want to purchase and relocate it for, I mean, I guess it's probably not likely to become a residential house, but I just wondered if that would be, there might be people that might be interested in that so they're not strictly commercial operators, or is that not really very likely?
Well, it may be likely. I don't know what the market interest will be out there. Certainly in terms of if you'd like us to amend the wording from commercial operators to anyone who is not for profit.
Yeah, double negative there. Yeah.
The needs of the board.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, really. Just that they're not an NGO charitable type thing, but they might also not be a business. So just make sure that could be caught as well.
Yep, no, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So are you suggesting?
Commercial or others to purchase and remove.
Private operators.
Yep, that could work.
That's good.
Commercial or private operators.
Just private is
fine.
You actually
Okay,
have
just
to
like-
specify.
Yanni, did you have a
Sorry.
question? Oh, sorry, Daryl. Yeah, done. Oh, I'm too much. Does that work?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you. Just looking at the history, this building's been relocated been relocated previously. And just mindful that people in the South Library will be faced with no library soon. Have we considered using it as a temporary library for the South Library while they get their rebuilt?
No.
Is that something we could, like, how would we consider that?
So in terms of the timing for the South Library, I'm not aware when that is due for action. I suppose it could be considered if that's what the desire is of the board. Probably the key is how well would it be utilised, or will it, how much of a benefit will it provide to the community? There is obviously the public library across the road, and I know that's community run, but from my perspective, putting staff into this particular building, it hasn't been used for 2 to 3 years already. There may need to be some money spent on that. At the moment, in relation to my portfolio, I won't have any budget to spend on this, which is why we've provided those particular options for consideration.
Do you have any sense of what the cost of relocation would be?
Yes, we have got the 5.12 on page 5, talks about potentially to the order of $60,000 to $70,000. So we have investigated that. Yes, it can be uplifted and moved, which is great. Again, it's whether or not council's got money to do that. And certainly the indication is from my current budget. No.
And is that just the cost of like actually moving it rather than like connecting electricity or does that take into account service?
It's an indicative cost.
I don't believe it would be putting connections to. That would be a secret cost.
Right, thank you.
Thanks, Eddie. I've got Daryl and Jake, then Sarah.
First question is, do you
Okay.
actually have to specify in 2A whether it's commercial operators or residential,
Is that,
rather than simply stating if there's any interest to purchase and remove the building from the site?
Yeah.
Do you have to specify commercial or residential? Okay.
It's just interested parties, you're right.
Right. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is that if it comes down to the line in terms of somebody putting forward a case to purchase and remove the building from the site, and that you also have not-for-profit community organisation, how do you determine it?
So through the EOI that we hadn't yet written,
Yes.
we would then put requirements for each. Based on that, we'll then determine how we would score and therefore how we would react or act in terms of that. So your point would be, is the preference from the board more around community operated or more about commercial?
Well, exactly.
Or
I mean,
any other interest?
I guess my point is that if you're writing the rules after the event, I would have thought that the answer might have been that there are set guidelines there now which determine whether community gets preference over commercial or residential, I guess.
So 5.28 on page 6 does talk about the EOI process. The key information that we will be asking for is who the commercial community group are, or who is the intended party community group are, what use they want the building for, where the building is to be relocated, and how the building's removal and future uses to be funded.
Right. Okay.
So that's the criteria that we currently would like to apply. So my apologies for.
No, that's okay. That's just a sort of short clarification around that. Thank you.
I understand. And obviously we'd go out to using Git, but also we'd go out to wider community in terms of whether it be via press and also community boards. We've already engaged with all the community boards, and there has been some interest, but nothing concrete to follow up on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Jake?
Yeah, just probably a very similar point to Sarah, and something I think will ameliorate your concerns, Darryl, by splitting that. I'm happy to second wording, any wording from Sarah that would split the two processes. And I think, given she can't speak, I think that concern is essentially because my personal worry is that we're setting the community EOI up to fail. If there is a community purpose, it won't stack up, but may stack up if another part of council or indeed we were of a mind to fund it. And then, yeah, whereas if we split the two, we can actually offer that weighting between commercial and non-profit.
Cool, thanks, Jake. Sarah, if you can speak.
Yeah, I'm keen to split the EOI off, and I'm keen to acknowledge the flood risk and the staff recommendation for removal, and request that we send it out for EOI, but then actually come back for a decision on removal.
Oh,
Understood.
fabulous. Thank you.
Sorry.
Questions, Madam Chair?
I think so. I've had nobody else.
So staff, how do we amend the board's resolution to reflect what they just advised that they'd like? So number one would not.
So if you, so in terms of
Number one is
Number
not
one.
quite in the right place, is it?
no, so if we put that below number 3, would that sit better with the board?
We'll just move it.
Yeah, and then just don't have 4 and 5.
Yes.
Easy.
Don't worry about the numbering. The numbering will fix itself shortly. So just up to location and take that down and make it a number 4. Make it 4.
Yes.
Well,
Well, under.
yeah. Right. Then Jake had a suggestion of moving 5 and further down. Which were you suggesting, Jake? Sorry.
Sorry, I could have got it wrong. I was just suggesting we don't vote on 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Which is the same thing. We'd have to delete it out of the board resolution.
Yeah.
So
just get rid of the last two.
In number 4, can you write following the EOI process?
Yeah, just
then approve
catch up. Just a minute. Yeah. We can delete it. Just delete it. Yeah. Yeah. And then at the beginning of number 4, please put following
the EOI process.
the EOI process.
Nice.
Doesn't need a colon.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So can I clarify, in relation to what was 2A and B, removing, yeah, so we've got now private operators, so comfortable with that.
Just an italics to show that the board have made amendments at the moment until I do the minutes tomorrow.
Understand, that's right. So we're comfortable with private operators, that covers commercial and, okay, that's right. Is there a preference, and correct me if I misunderstood or not, to have, is the preference more to go to a non-for-profit than a commercial or a private operator?
Almost impossible to say. I don't think anything commercial is going to stack up, but we can see it. There's $1 million offer on the table and a very poor community use. But otherwise, we would be geared towards community use.
I would, through the chair, I would suggest until we have heard the case or what comes back, we can't really determine.
Yeah,
Yep, no, that's right. So we're happy with the order of A and B. We don't need to cement it through.
Yeah.
And then down to 3. So number 3, is that just what the board, so staff will come back?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then following that process,
The further
approval will be sought. Won't it? Well, staff, yeah,
Yes.
I'll fix the sentence.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry,
Sarah?
Sorry, can I just check one thing? That is all A and B are both definite EOIs for removal. It may be that there's a shorter term, because there is a flood risk, but it's, the building hasn't flooded yet. Whether there's a short-term use, we don't want to exclude someone from having a short-term community use if they came up with one. That's all.
Yeah, so are you talking about Amy Young's email, Sarah?
Oh, Amy, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not sure if that will stack up as a use beyond a short period of time. And I don't know that it would stack up against other proposals that would come through for removal, but I wouldn't want to preclude the community or members of the community coming forward, or a commercial operator, for a use that was on site for a period of time. I wouldn't want to preclude that from the process, that's all. So whether we had a C in there that was a shorter term use, expressions of interest from either commercial or not-for-profit for a shorter term use, acknowledging the flood risk or something like that. I know that it did have someone operating so psychiatrist services out of there, or counsellor services out of there for a while. So
Or a short
Yeah.
term. Tenancy, short term tenancy.
Short-term use.
short, maybe short to medium, because we don't know what that kind of means. It could be 6 months, it could be a couple of years, but it's not that permanent kind of removal thing.
No, I understand.
On site.
It's also probably just, may I put a rider on it in terms of obviously the current state of the building, and what does it look like, and what do we need to do potentially to get it up to, fit for purpose, if you like, or ability to be used. If I may.
Through the chair, if I may, I think the point you're making, it shouldn't be at any expense to council.
Sorry, Sarah.
Just agreeing that whatever happens, if it's brought up to standard or use, it shouldn't be at any expense to council.
So number C needs to say at no cost to council also.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Good point. Thanks, Sarah. Cool. So I don't think we have any more questions at all. We've worked through the wording pretty well and thoroughly. Thank you so much for presenting and answering our questions this evening. Really appreciate it. And do I have a mover? Sunita and Tim, all in favour? Aye. Thank you. That's carried. Fabulous.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much. Thanks for your time.
Yeah,
Fabulous. We look forward to seeing you again.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, board members, we are moving on to item 8. This is 7 Strickland Street intersection and the proposed no stopping restrictions. And we have Tony with us this evening. Welcome, Tony.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, Tony, could you please introduce yourself to the board? I don't think you've been here before.
No, I haven't.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Tony Davies, I'm the traffic engineer, the traffic ops team at Council.
Cool. Nice to meet you. Just to remind you that we're recording and it's live streamed. And yeah, thank you so much for meeting with us for the first time. I'm sure we'll see you around a lot more. But and at your own time. I'm sure we've all read the report. So I guess if there's anything that you want to share with us that you think is important, then go for that. And then we can get on to questions.
No, I'm happy to go straight to questions.
Perfect, cool. Jake.
Happy to move as a block for the next three
Yeah.
items.
All right.
Yeah.
Did anybody have any questions, Tony, for any of them? They're all pretty straightforward, but I just want to double check. No, we're all good. Cool. Okay, that's great. Thanks, Jake. And Sunita's seconding. All three.
Devon
Fabulous.
Street, Percy Street, and
Yeah.
Charles.
Street, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so all in favour.
Hi.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you so much, Tony. Thanks for coming to say hi. Have a good evening.
I just wanted before Tony leaves, because we've got the Linfield one, but we don't have any staff here for that. Are we able just to?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Oh, just for the Linfield parking restriction.
It's not on the agenda today.
Oh, it's on the area report. There's a big memo on it.
Yes, but Tony didn't write the memo.
Oh, okay.
Staff that dealt with that.
Right. Okay, cool.
Oh, you're good. Okay. Okay, moving on to item 11. That is question and response fund. Yeah, Arahanui. Hi.
I'm taking myself from the mask.
This is page 71, board members. Yep.
It's all turned itself off. I'll get there. Okay. So board projects, we workshopped the board projects in June, and this is the report. It sets us up for the for the various projects that the board we're asking for the board to fund for the coming financial year.
Did we have any questions? Obviously, went through this. Michelle?
So thanks for the report. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah, perfect.
Great. So just as I did raise when we were working through it in June, in terms of the community events budget, I've just got a few questions because I guess that I feel, especially when it's, we have to be super transparent when it is something we're not making it available to community groups or members of the community, but we're running it ourselves. So I see that the breakdown is 2,500 for the Community Service Awards and the Poroporo Aki is 3,500. I'm just wondering, previously, I know we haven't had a Poroporo Aki, but what has been the cost of running the Community Service Awards previously?
Generally, we have a budget that it covers a number of awards. We do the Community Services Awards, the Edible Gardens and the Community Garden Awards, or Garden Pride, Community Pride Garden Awards, to get it in the right order. And in previous years, we've had a budget of around between $6,000 and $8,000, depending on what sort of event. Yeah,
so that was what was budgeted, but what was actually spent?
We spend every penny of it.
Right.
Sorry, through the chair, that's for three.
That's, for three events.
Right. So I guess, because I know that we are intending to use venues that are not council venues. And a question I've got is, if we do use somewhere like Turanga, do we have to pay for that being a community board? And how do the costs compare of using council facilities compared to outside facilities?
Well, it's always free using a council facility, but tūranga is not available for either of the events that are either of the ones that are proposed, which is why we've come back with a little bit more, asking more from the budget.
Okay, and then so how much of the budget will be on catering?
I can't give you the cost, I'm sorry. I haven't got the project proposal in front of me.
I mean, okay, well, I would find it helpful because I guess that I'm just thinking particularly, when I'm thinking about, for example, the concern that we as a board have had about the wastewater plant fire and the experience of the Bromley community, that I think it's really important that we as a board are seen to be being really prudent and, potentially is there a scope for the Bromley School, for example, to perhaps help us with catering as a fundraiser for them or something like that. I'm just thinking outside the box a bit here.
Well, we certainly won't be going to top-notch caterers. We generally use caterers who are local and from the community for that very reason. That's, what we generally do.
So not for profit, you're saying?
Yeah, or local caterers, or so we source
putting money back into
close to home,
the local economy.
Yeah. So we don't go to the places that you might, if you were going to the Chamber of Commerce and having a catered, I'm just using it as an example. I have no idea what they actually do, but that's my guess, is that they wouldn't use the same caterers that we would. We use local people. Yeah.
Because the other question that I've got is that, do we have to have the Poroporo Aki and the Community Service Awards on separate nights? There could be scope to have them together, and that would save money and it might actually make a more vibrant event.
Well, they're quite separate purposes, and we originally looked at trying to arrange for that, but actually it wouldn't have ended up being cheaper because there are quite a significant number of people who come to a Community Services Awards. It's the people who are getting the award, it's the people who nominate them, so that there are 3 or 4 people who come with every person who's coming with, who's actually being the recipient of an award. So it would be very hard to carry out a Poroporoaki process with people who are there to collect an award for doing good work in the community. The two kaupapa are quite different from each other.
Okay, well, I appreciate the answers that you've given, but I'm afraid that in conscience, I'm not going to be able to support 6,000 for those community events. So I just want to let you know where I'm coming from, because I just think it could be done more cheaply. And I don't mean that as a criticism, but I think particularly in these straitened times when a lot of our residents, especially in the poorer areas of our board area, are really struggling. I'd rather see it go straight to community groups, or for example, Bromley School or Bromley Community Centre, given the issues there.
We can discuss that, Michelle, when it comes to debate around it. So we can have a proper discussion.
I would like to point out, however, that the people who are there are the community groups who serve the community, and it is a factory to them. So it isn't. This isn't a rah-rah for the board. It's the purpose of this is actually to give closure and thanks to all of the various community groups who've served this community board for many years.
Yeah. Jake and then Daryl.
One quick one on a slightly different topic, same event. Obviously, thinking we're winning on the regulated period, and this is very close to the week before ballots are in people's hands. Will any sensitivity be applied to, for example, speeches and things like that? Basically, are any politicians speaking?
you will all be given, in a Purupuruaki, every person who attends is given an opportunity to
So it's
speak.
balanced out in
Yeah.
that way, which is everyone speaks as opposed to, no, there's no.
There's
selection.
no selection of some people and not other people. It's a process of kind of, you know, we unfold when we're working with the community over the period of a term. This is the folding back up. So
Easy.
everybody does.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jake. Daryl?
Slightly to left field, but you stated that community service boards, the nominators often come along. As a person who is advised of a community service award, advised of who the nominators are.
It's in the form.
Yeah, that we know who they are, you know who they are, that's in the.
But
Well,
when
sometimes
the
they
message
won't
goes
go
out to
though.
the person
Oh,
that
yes, yeah,
they're advised that they've been nominated by X and X.
yes, yeah, it's in the little book.
Yep.
That gets
Yeah.
published.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's
Yeah,
just
no,
a
that's
point.
good question.
Thanks, Daryl. Anita?
Grace, do we have a breakdown though, in terms of the cost of venue and food and whatever it is?
I can't.
No, not
give it
now,
to you.
not
Yeah.
now, but.
Oh, we can give it to you, it's, yeah, absolutely.
Any more questions around the funding? Danny?
Is it possible to separate out the community event side?
What was the purpose space?
Yeah, so like you've got just the one project, but it's 2 events.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's what we normally do, sorry, that's just
Yeah.
standard
We
practice.
always put them together.
Well, that's good. And then just for me, the kind of the timing is in a race at the workshop as well. So was there any thought to doing this after the election with, you know, obviously introducing the new board members from the new community boards and a chance for the board members that are no longer
The
here?
new community boards, but it's a completely different community board. This is old.
No, I get that, but obviously like you could extend the invite to the new board members to get some of the community people.
There might be a Linwood-Central-Heathcote community governance team following the election. It finishes. We're gone and off a whole lot of new jobs. So that's not a.
I'm not sure that there's like a question for this. This is talking about the funding, not
Whether we have.
the way we run it.
We are
Like we
going
can
to
have those discussions later anyway. But this is about the funding of it, right?
No, because the matrices, there is you can discuss the matrices, you know, ask questions about the matrices. That's
I'm just concerned about the timing, given, I mean, we've just had another briefing on election protocols.
Well,
I'm just concerned about it.
I think that Jake's asked a really good question and a really good answer was given. And it's not about us. And I think we need to remember that as board members, this is not our thing, but this is an opportunity for our communities to actually have a thank you for all of the amazing and hard work they have done working not just with the board, but actually mainly with staff and with each other. And this is our last chance to say thank you to them. And a really great point raised by Michelle, you know, like these communities are dealing with so much and so many different aspects of, well, their community groups' lives, but also their lives as residents. And this is like $6,000 in the grand scheme of things is very small for us to actually give them something nice to look forward to and closure for our board. But it's not about us, it's about them. And I think that's what we need to remember. And if we can't get a grip on the fact that it's election year and everybody is good about not electioneering, then there's something wrong with us.
Sorry, I just want to know, like, what could go wrong?
Exactly.
I just want to understand this.
I don't understand what could go wrong because that doesn't enter my brain. Jake?
No, I was just going to say, if people have a suggestion for an alternative format for the evening, they can do so via the process, we won't end up talking in circles.
Yeah. No more questions?
Maybe you can give us a charter of Porotoroaki. What is it that tells? That would be good. One.
Yes, and I will brief the board. I'll provide you with an email and a briefing as to how it will run.
Yeah.
But in essence, as I said in the workshop, in a Porotoroaki, it is an opportunity for everybody who's present, should they choose. I mean, some people don't want to speak in public, but anybody who wishes to speak then gets to, so we will meet and greet everybody there. Everybody gets a chance to speak in the end. So thank you.
Thank you. Michelle?
I'm just wondering, I know that our board is the most affected in the sense that we're the one that's being disestablished, but are there any other boards going to be running a Porotoroaki in this manner?
There aren't any other boards being disestablished, so no.
Some of the other boards have a quiet private affair between the board members and their partners, and they go out for dinner without staff and things like that. So
That's nice.
and that's their own cost. It's not well to the community.
And every year, generally at Christmas, we have a thank you and to the community, which of course you're not going to be doing. We haven't done for the last 2 years because of COVID, and you won't be doing because the board won't actually exist at Christmas time. Well, we call it Christmas because I mean end of year. Yeah, end of year.
That's what Liz calls it.
Yeah. So it's on the par with that, but it's a different process.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for answering those questions, Whananui. And thank you for all of the work that's gone into this. Did we have anything we would like to discuss? Michelle?
So I guess I just want to, I suppose this is formally the debate bit. So this is my chance just to recap what I said. So I support the spirit of the events, absolutely. But I have been raising my concerns about the cost for some time, and I'm pleased at least we're now not having it as was initially proposed at the town hall. So I am happy about that, but I'm still concerned about, I have run a number of community events myself for St. John Youth and various other on a much smaller budget than that. So I can't in conscience support that aspect of the board projects. Happy to support the others. So if it's possible to separate that out so I can vote in favour of the others and just against that one. Otherwise I'll have to vote against all. Thank you.
Excuse me, we can in process, we will note it at the bottom of the resolutions, Michelle, that you voted against number 5, I believe it is.
Thank you.
Do we have
Is that so that was the funding for all of the community events, is that correct?
Well, for the 2 community events, yeah.
Yeah, 2. Cool, thank you. Sunita, did you?
I just wanted to know, do we have a venue? Have we?
Yeah.
Yes, it's the Linfield Rugby Club.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Can I ask,
Yeah.
how many people are we actually expecting?
Well, at the end of year, back to questions, but at the end of year Christmas, end of year.
Is it coming through? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The volume.
Yeah. Right. At the end of the year, thank you. Do that we generally have. We get 150 odd people.
That's held here.
Yeah, it spills outside. It's very packed and crowded, which is why we haven't done it because of COVID for 2 years. Yeah.
So we have no, through Madam Chair, we have no sort of way of maneuvering this through TIPA. Sorry.
It's not big enough. So we had to find a venue that was big enough to hold 150 people and be able to distance, which is why we ended up having to go to
Somewhere that large.
Go to Hagley Park.
Yeah. Probably just go outside. Cool, thank you so much. Well, if there are no other comments.
I'm so sorry, I'm just talking out loud. That's just council, there is no council facility which can have that many people. A part of Turanga, I know Turanga is busy on that night.
In our area. Not that we've managed to find in our area, no.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Sorry, I just want to be clear. You're gonna put them separate.
Yeah. Did you want the two community events separate?
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
We can do that if that's okay.
And yeah, I mean, the only other concern, just to raise the other concern I've got is with the re-emergence of COVID, which is spreading like wildfire.
Yeah.
Like just from my experience, like it's one thing to say to people social distance at the event, but you know, people want to come up, they want to shake your hand, they want to. I'm just kind of concerned about that aspect as well.
Is that something that we need to relook at when the government actually change, which hopefully they don't have to, but when levels are changed?
Well, I think the thing is that it's all incumbent on us to kind of manage our risk, and I guess from my point of view, you know, certainly I haven't really seen that from a council's point of view with what's happening at the moment. It feels very much like business as usual, but you know, if you look at the case numbers and the way they're increasing and possible new variants and the lack of immunity that people have from previously being infected, I'm just kind of concerned. So I'm concerned, you know, for the timing, but because of the election period, for that paparaki, and you know, I think afterwards it would be better to do it. I hear that staff, you know, are not supportive of that, but to me, yeah, cool. But to me, it does feel a bit awkward just from previous experience with different things that council have done in the past, and especially with the increased scrutiny that we're having put. I appreciate that staff have sought advice on that, but I still think there is a public risk. That is a perception that, you know, could be damaging to us if we do it. So, you know, I do feel uncomfortable about that. So I'll be abstaining from number 6. But I think community services would absolutely need to hold those.
So you're abstaining from number 6, but not number 5. Yeah, is that what I heard? Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Rowdy. Daryl, then Tim.
I'm going to throw a curveball in here. What would be the implications if we didn't have the Waikura?
Wow.
You wouldn't be saying.
Sorry?
You wouldn't be saying thank you.
Okay, well, that's one.
We'd just be ignoring our communities.
It's the same. It's the same.
Yeah.
There are multiple ways of saying thank you to your community.
We can give them a box of roses.
Well, that would cost more than
I definitely don't think at election time we should give every voter a box.
Oh no, that's definitely bad.
I mean, it's quite obvious from sitting here that there's a degree of dissension amongst elected representatives.
We can settle it with a vote.
Yeah, we can if we want to. We can take 5 and 6 out if we need to. Tim?
Yeah, when I was hearing how many people will be there and how the event will be, I will be very cautious about whether I attend it, given my age and the fact that I have prior lung damage from an injury 20 years ago. So, you know, I'm trying to be pretty careful at the moment. So it'll depend very much on what's happening in the community, but I might want to be careful there.
That's totally understandable.
And I'd second that.
Yeah. Sunita?
I've got a question that if, let's say, we are not going ahead with Korokoraki, but what about Community Services Award event? It will still be an event, right?
Yeah.
So either we do event or we don't do a public event.
Exactly.
There's no like choice between.
What one is?
You need
It
to
is and the
split,
other.
you need to split them out if that's the case. We have split them out.
Yeah, we have,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'd be reluctant to be expected to make a decision now as to whether I would come, for example. Can't.
Yeah, it'll definitely be like.
Do you want to do
So
1 to 4 first?
we could do all the way through, excluding 5 and 6, and then vote for them separately at the end.
So 1 to 4 and 7 to 9, we're voting on board members.
Yeah.
Moment.
Perfect. Okay, so did everybody hear that? So we're voting on 1 to 4 and 7 to 9.
What? Sorry.
1 to 4
1 to
and
4.
7 to 9. And we'll split out 5 and 6 and vote for them separately at the end.
Are you
So we're good with that?
Following Daryl?
Yeah. So for resolutions 1 to 4
And 7
and
to 9.
7 to 9, do I have a mover? Sunita. And a seconder? Jake? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, do you, can I just ask a question? You're saying 7 to 9. What,
Yep.
what's 9? I'm looking at, you're looking at page
Oh, because we've changed the numbers around.
72.
Community events for
And
you.
Jane's
Jane's
Sorry.
Yeah.
Jane's just going to share the amended one. with
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay,
probably
yep.
make sense more. Okay, so 1 to 4, 7 to 9, I've got a mover, Sunita, and Jake is seconding. All in favour? Okay. Carried, thank
Just
you.
take 6 to start with. We'll do 6 first.
Okay, so 6, so this is $3,500 towards the Puro Aki event. Those in favour?
Sorry, I'm trying to lower my hand.
Chair, because you
But
need a
I'm gonna go
mover and a
5.
second, you need a mover and a
Oh, yeah,
second
sorry.
for that.
I would move, oh wait, can we do 5 first?
Okay,
Sorry,
do
I'm
5.
being a
Sorry,
bit
I
long.
jumped ahead.
Yeah, so approve a grant of $2,500 towards the Community Service Awards event. Do I have a mover?
Happy to.
Thanks, Daryl. And second, I've got Jake. All in favour? Fabulous, thank you. And Michelle, that is carried. Michelle, did you want, was that?
I'd like to record a vote against, please.
A vote against?
Against, okay.
Yep, thank you.
Sorry, vote against for number 5.
Yes.
Correct.
And now moving on to approving number 6.
I was abstaining on number 6.
You're,
Just a moment,
I haven't even read
second.
it.
It's not on the table.
So approve a grant of $3,500 towards the Puro Aki. Do I have a mover? Oh, I'll move it. Do I have a seconder? No, that's fine. That is not
So
carried.
it's lapsed. It's not a motion, a resolution for the members.
Thank you. Okay. All right.
Okay,
So we are done.
We're done with
Fabulous.
that.
Okay. We are moving on now to item 12, which is page 81 of the, this is our board area report, and we have Arahimili again.
I'll take this as read and answer any questions I can.
Thank you. Any questions around the area report? Daryl.
Thank you. I'm going to the memo of 31st of March on the summer Esplanade seating. I'm sort of a little confused because it says for information purposes, but says very little, and I'm hoping that Tim might be able to help me out here. Key points related to Sumner Esplanade seating. The replacement of these seats is planned to be done under the Coastal Pathway project. There is an intention to have less, but higher quality seating if the project budget allows. The board will be updated on the project as the work progresses. First question is, can we have some clarification around the concept or the word of less?
It's page 141. Thank you. Sorry, Daryl, I don't have any information for you.
I'm asking Tim.
You want me to answer?
Yeah, I said that Tim might ask.
Tim and I missed that. Sorry, Daryl.
That's okay.
Well, in terms of the priorities for the coastal pathway, there is the priority of getting the current part finished. And then beyond that, the coastal pathway group will be looking at what else there is to do and what funds remain. And any improvements to the Esplanade will depend very much on how it stacks up against other things and against the amount of funds remaining. And of course, with all construction projects, there is a great deal of uncertainty yet in how much the current project will cost. So I'm a bit surprised to see this looking as if it's a promise of some sort. There, it is a possibility rather than a guaranteed word. But the Coastal Pathway project certainly regards the Esplanade as an area it would like to do improvements on, should it have funds. But it might stack up against, for example, it will have to compete with, for example, putting an entranceway on the Coastal Pathway at Scott Park and a potential, what's the guy's name, sculpture that's being looked at for that area. There's quite a few, potentially high cost projects. So it's that collection of stuff will be looked at as a collection of stuff after the current project is known, as cost is known, and how much funds remain is known.
Thanks, Tim, because
so there is no firm commitment from the Coastal Pathway Group to do this.
Thanks, Tim, and that's exactly what I took out of it. I sort of thought that, excuse the terminology, but there's sort of a bit of spin here that doesn't necessarily say a heck of a lot in terms of what happens if the Coastal Pathway are not in a position to fund the seating. And as you're aware, board members, there is a real issue with the seating on the Esplanade, and I think we need something perhaps a little bit more definitive than simply putting it back on the Coastal Pathway, and to get something a bit more definitive from council.
And I can clarify that in the developed designs of the Coastal Pathway, there is seating there. It will be better and it will be less. And that's in the current developed design. But when a project actually comes to a building stage, all that gets looked at is
So
Thank
are we
you.
suggesting something?
Yeah, I'd like to suggest that we go back to council and request further information with respect to the 31st of March memo, suggesting that this will only proceed as the project budget allows. Is there an ability for council to step in should the Coastal Pathway budget preclude seating along the esplanade.
Can I make a suggestion?
Certainly.
That you would request the repair and maintenance of the current setting on the coastal on the Southern Esplanade.
So-
The
so-
repair and maintenance of the current setting on the Southern Esplanade. The repair and
Sorry.
maintenance be undertaken on the current setting on the Southern Esplanade.
The repair and maintenance of the seating along the
Well,
current esplanade is absolutely diabolical.
That's right, so that it be undertaken. What is undertaken is repair and maintenance of the current setting along the esplanade.
Well, preferably removal and replacement, not repair and maintenance.
Okay. Yep, absolutely.
Sorry. The seats are the pits.
They look very uncomfortable.
Thank you.
So we're all happy to put that through?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Anybody else? Yanni?
Yeah, I appreciate the report back on the Linfield parking, just a little bit disheartened with the staff response. And just wanting us to do more in that space. I have had requests, you'll note in the advice that people, the parking's going all the way up to Rhodes Road and Cypress Street. So I did have a very specific request that we asked staff to investigate no stopping restrictions on the Cypress Street, Rhodes Road corner. And basically it's just dangerous. And I mean, those of us, I think there might be some board members that have had met with, I think we've done Waikura down there many years ago.
Yeah.
But the speed of the traffic going around the corner, and I think we've had recommendations to the board, the cars just stream around that corner, and if there's no visibility because of the parking, then it's quite dangerous. So I just wondered if we could ask staff to investigate the Rhodes Cypress Road corner, but no parking restrictions, and also ask that they investigate. Well, I mean, I'd like them to do it, but maybe we need to ask that they investigate the planting. They said one possible option could be to move the park fence forward, so support that. And then there was also, I think in the middle they talked about planting being more appropriate than 3.4. Yeah. Birds could be planted. Because basically we don't have enough parking enforcement staff. And I think people just stopped complaining because they're frustrated rather than the lack of a problem. So it seems to me it'd be really good to get some tangible action. And the staff have recommended doing one thing. But I think there's those three more things that we could ask.
So can you send that, have we managed to write all that down, or can you send that through?
Type it up.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
It needs to get it through to us now. Yanni.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That seems reasonable.
The only
They
other,
did give advice in the memo about, are you talking about no stopping parking restriction lines? Because the no stop is with lines is also signage, and as you see in 3.3.
yeah, I'm just talking about yellow lines at Cypress Road and Rhodes Road. So, yeah, I appreciate that in terms of the no stopping signage, they've given the advice around that. That what they've said is that plantings may be more appropriate or bringing the fence line forward. So I'd like them to investigate that.
You'd like them to
Or
investigate?
do, or do
Yeah,
if they
yeah,
can.
so it
Yeah.
would be about, you'd be asking them to bring a report.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
To the board
Cypress
for the
Road.
implementation
Yes.
of 1, 2, and 3.
Rhodes Road.
It's not another investigation.
Okay.
So that community would request.
I'll go on to Michelle while you're typing that up, Yanni. Michelle?
So I just wanted to congratulate on the youth event, the 223 rangatahi at the Te Pau Toi Toi event. That is so fantastic. And I had a wee question, which was, in terms of the funding, how much longer have we got funding for it? Does anyone know, or are we able to get that information?
Yeah, the events are funded for the 2022 year.
Right. Okay. Cool. Thank you. And also, good to see the Bromley Park event was well attended. And likewise with the Latimer Square event. And I've got a question around that, just in terms of, there was some work around, because that is an area that hasn't got much, a residents association and so on. So I'm presuming that pizza event, it was all part of that. Is that correct?
Yes, a group of interested community members have put their names forward and they're looking at issues that pertain to the community in that area.
So they're kind of in the process, because that was the hope, wasn't it, that there'd be a residents group that there might be some impetus for.
Yeah, they're not so far as to actually become a formal residents group.
Right, I'm with you. So did we, as in board staff, were involved in that pizza party event? Is that how it went?
Yeah, it was facilitated by Gap Fella, but our community development advisor was there alongside the urban regeneration staff.
Sweet, good, thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Anyone else? Danny?
So just the Bromley traffic in the areas exchange, sorry, and not in the area report. Sorry, I'm just. Anyway, I just wanted to say if there's a time frame for, sorry, it's just on page 81, Bromley traffic project. I just want to see what the next milestone is and when we can expect you to report back to the board.
I just have to find a page.
What page is it?
Page 81.
Regular monthly meetings are underway. It doesn't really say much, just says regular monthly meetings are underway with Bromley Community or Bromley Traffic Project.
It's in the table.
Yeah, okay, I found it. Well, that's the latest update. So the latest meeting, there was a meeting that I talked about at the last board meeting with the last area report, sorry, where the groups got together. They met when I was away, and the staff member who's involved is on leave since I've been back, so I haven't actually had the next conversation with her, but I'm expecting to talk with the staff member this week, and we will be looking at a communication out to the community once I'm kind of aware of where we've got to with that plan. So the project manager attended the meeting with the community and all of the various people who were part of the community group there. So I haven't talked to her, so I can't tell you any more than that.
Could we just get something circulated? Because I guess there's now money on budget, so council's approved the draft annual plan. So just really keen to get some quick wins on this one. Obviously, it's been going on for a while. So yeah, it'd be really good just to get an update around what the next key milestones are, and to share that. I think that's something.
As I just said, yeah, that's what we're doing.
Cool.
So,
Thank you. Tim?
Yeah, just a question around the accountability reports. And it may be something that has happened that I can't remember, but I noticed that the Woolstone Community Centre, there is a no reply in terms of the actions with the 10,000. There may be something that I've been told.
They've since closed down.
Yeah. So were those funds put to use?
I'm assuming so.
Next, anybody else? Nope. No. Do I have a mover for the report?
Oh, sorry, I just said the resolutions.
We're just waiting for.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry,
Please.
I was just trying to reprint.
Can you plug it in? Can I move or second something too? Because I haven't managed anything this time and I look like I haven't been at the meeting.
You can move this one if you like, Michelle.
Okay, thank you.
She has to wait to see what's happening. I'm just giving it through the copy of what we do have.
Okay, on to elected members exchange. Just while Yanni's finishing that off.
We will go back to the report.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're waiting for Yanni's resolutions to come through.
So do we have elected members? It's Anita.
I just want to bring to attention everyone about the Cashel Street shop where there has been teenagers vandalizing, and the shopkeeper has spoken to me before. First time when it happened around, went to police. Even I had a police record number and everything, and talking to police. It happened second time. And then the third time. So shopkeeper has posted on his Facebook, even tagged Chris Lynch. I was very disappointed to see this, but because it tells me that his faith in system has completely gone. And when people completely bypass the system and go to media as like a last resort to attain the public support, it's just very disheartening. The saddest thing for me is that those children's faces is online, like it's in the video. It's not a good thing. I know when the media person posted the video online, the faces were covered. However, still on the Facebook, we can see the face very clearly. So I find this sad. Second thing is that the shopkeeper has gone and talked to the person concerned, which is opposite side of the street, Youth Development Center. I don't know how this can go over and over without being detected and being sort of mitigated. So what I'm seeking is us as a board to find solution with police, or at least to get police, the business around the area, and YCD on the same table.
That sounds really good, Anita. And just picking up from what you said as well, the fact that the youth is still online, maybe as a board we can actually reach out to the media venue that has that still up and ask them if they can actually block out the face. So we could do that too.
Supplementary to that, was it the press that did that obscuring, or was that that obscuring happened from read PR, the PR company that put this one out?
So whatever I have seen, it's all over Facebook. So so the shopkeeper has posted first. It's a CCTV footage, and the same footage is being posted by Chris Lynch. So one or the other, children's face is visible.
Right.
Yeah, and I
So
don't
it's come
think
from
so.
the owner.
Yeah, it comes from the owner for sure, but it's not.
But we can ask them to
It's not
take it
safe.
down from the public.
However, the problem is, the bigger problem is that we need to get people on table, and talk to them one-on-one, or however we can do it. And plus, as a board, we show support to the businesses in CBD, or any, for the matter of fact, any area.
So it's not Ali Jones's company that's done the lack of obscuring, or we're not sure, we don't know.
Chris Lynch.
Chris Lynch has put the video up. Yeah. So
Yeah,
what would be the best course of action?
I think if we can look at reaching out to the different places that
Yes,
you
please.
mentioned, Sunita.
Yeah.
And we can look at getting a meeting where we can all sit
Yeah.
down and have a conversation about what's happening in the area. Because, you know, once that specific place isn't being targeted, where's the next place?
And see, I remember when first time this issue came to me and the second vandalism happened day after. So
Yeah.
2 days in a row, 2 nights in a row.
Crazy.
The person was obviously distressed because the number of, amount of money gets wasted. The whole glass sort of a wall is broken.
Yeah.
And it's petty theft. So it's lollies and drinks and, chewing gums, these kind of things.
Yeah.
Even in the video, I have seen it, the child seems like has got hurt, even going through that broken glass, because you can hear a voice like, ouch, kind of thing. So safety is concerned. And second is, this business owner is an Indian business owner. So he is going down, his mental health is going down, and is thinking that, is it a racial attack that it's happening to me over and over again? And third time in a row, I would think the same. And I don't see, and I remember very clearly that last time when police commissioner was here, I did ask him the stats on racial attack. And he said, proudly that last 6 months, we had no racial attack. So this is just not acceptable. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, thanks so much. If everybody's happy with that request, we're all good with that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, Anita. That's really good. Anybody else? Jake?
Yep. Couple of things. Just a couple of really small things I pick up on the travels as I go, wandering around the streets as I do. Park partnerships. I've had a couple of people ask me about, I'm a retired gardener, or I've got nothing to do and I'm bored and lonely and I'd love to go help out and do some stuff. And I thought that we may have had the ability to sort of partner with people in the community that were interested in keeping our parks clean and tidy. And I just wondered if maybe the staff had some quick comment now or wanted to seek further information to see if that's an avenue that people can look into. So that was one thing, parks partnership. Does anyone know anything about that?
I'm just looking, I think you'll
Okay.
find it on the
Okay,
website.
I'll bring up the next
Yeah.
one. Yeah. So
Jake, is that park rangers that do that stuff? And
yeah, the urban park rangers, but
yeah,
it would be great to have that information that we can
totally,
now
100%.
future, because it comes up all the time. Should I bring? Okay, I'll bring one up. Yeah. So fire safety at the building next to the Video Easy. I was chatting to the local police who wondered have we explored whether there's actually a fire safety risk with that building with so much vegetation and it's collapsed.
The Video Easy building.
This
The
is
Video Easy building and the one next to it.
Yeah, there's like it's off the street. You have to go wandering for it.
I feel like we have had a discussion about it.
It's the type of thing, Josh, you should just get across.
He'll bring
It would be a discussion with Fens, and if there are a lot, if there is shrubbery and like overgrown vegetation, something can be done to trim that back, because that is then
That would
a risk.
solve, yeah, it's a risk if we can mitigate it and it would solve the problem of people basically hiding and taking sittings on the main street of Linwood Village. So
Yeah.
if we could ask them, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, no, don't worry. Yeah, that's actually it for me. I was going to also raise Phillips Town, but I thought you might want to and then take it from there.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. Was there anybody else? Yanni?
I don't think the board's received it, but the staff, often the chief executive has sent me through a response to the request back in March around what was happening at Kenaway Farm with shipping containers, just to alert people that there's a whole bunch of shipping containers that are going in right along the river. There doesn't appear to be much district planning control, but the staff have said that it's permitted to operate a container yard storage distribution on the industrial area, subject to compliance with certain standards in the district plan, including those relating to noise, light, waterway setbacks and landscaping. That they're not aware of any specific proposals in the area, but they may not require resource consent. And they've asked the compliance team to investigate. But I think it's like the residents that have contacted me have been woken at like 6 in the morning with heavy banging. I presume it's the containers being put in, but regardless, it would be really good. Like we've spent a lot of time on the, which is great to see council endorse the plan for the lower Waikura. And here's a really, tangible example of where land use planning doesn't seem to take into account the impact on the river, and also concern around the impact on local residents who are adjacent. So I just wondered if we could, I've put it through the office of the CE, but that would be good for the board to ask with urgency to get a response around what the standards are in the district plan relating to the noise, light, waterway setbacks and landscaping.
I'll add that to what is going to be reported back to the board.
That would be really cool.
It will be an action that we have been following up on.
Yeah, thank you. And then I think,
also,
I encourage residents to come along when we get that information. Sorry,
I was going to ask if you've got the residents' CSR numbers when they've reported that noise.
No, well, like for example, they rang the council this morning at 6 a.m. as I understand it.
And that's good.
And someone said that they were going to ring them back and they were waiting to hear from someone.
But if we had a number, that would be
I know, but they
great.
didn't get a number. I asked them.
Then I know where it's gone to for staff.
Yeah. And just to raise concern too with, obviously the scrap metal yard. The cars just seems to be getting bigger and bigger. But anyway, that's
the one on Garland's Road we're talking
Yes.
about. Yeah.
And
It's got me in the live stream, people don't know.
but anyway, I just think getting just to make people aware that the staff are doing more work around the response. So the shipping containers have gone in, but it would be good just to understand a little bit more about what the controls were, and then that way we can liaise with residents about where this best direction is, I guess, for them to raise concerns. Thank you. And I've sent 2 emails through. One was just on the requesting a report around that Linwood parking. And I did send a second one that kind of referenced the parts of the report that referred to each of those, but I don't know if that's useful or not. And I'm really keen if staff can just go away and do it. I'm really keen for them to do it, but if they need a report, that's cool as well. There is some urgency because it's the winter sports season now, which is why I presume I'm getting complaints. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Tony.
The 2 emails you've sent through are exactly the same. We can go back to the lead men.
Yeah. So I just wanted to bring up the Worcester Street cycleway. And I know people have been getting emails and comms around the safety of the cycleway, and this has been going on for many years. There's comment from staff that so there's issues around like the rubbish bins blocking the cycleway and cars covering the cycleway, and just the general layout of it is pretty terrible. But the team that run the rubbish bins, they say it's all good, which is fine, but they're not the ones on cycles. So it's just something that I would like us to get a bit more information on, and kind of like a history from staff as to where we are at now. So if the board are happy for us to get some feedback around the historical information, of the Worcester Street cycleway, quite specifically between Stanmore and Fitzgerald. And yeah, get some information back around their safety assessment.
Yeah.
We,
Mm.
on this one, I have heard of one other similar complaint, but I've only ever heard of one complaint on this. And if it's the same complaint, it could be becoming almost litigious, and it's, so I just caution that we can't ask for the same information 10,000 times over and over again.
Oh, totally. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I have been down there a couple of times, and it doesn't really matter what time of day you go down, the issues that have been brought up, and I don't know if it's just one person either, so that would be interesting to find out. But the issues that have been brought up they do look like quite dangerous issues.
So Alex, what are the issues? Sorry.
So down that stretch of Worcester Street between Stanmore and Fitzgerald, people put their bins out and they cover the cycleways. They're parking their cars over the cycleways as well. So it's basically due to the layout of the cycleway and the way it's been put into the streetscape. And obviously people's behaviour around the area. So there's a lot of different kind of issues going on there, but it kind of ties back to the actual design of that cycleway. So if we can just get the information back and like see how many complaints we have had, then I think it would help us.
Sure.
Yep.
I also had, so I think Jake, you met with Phillipstown today as well, is that right?
Sure is, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So did you manage to flick that email to Grace, was it?
Yeah. Yes.
Cool. So you might be able to help us. But anyway, just for the board's information, Phillipstown have just asked some questions around some comments that were made around a community facility being put onto Lancaster Park. And those comments were around the fact that having a facility on Lancaster Park would actually have an effect on the hub. But there was no follow-up commentary around that. So they're obviously like a little bit concerned as to what that effect might be, or those effects might be. So they just wanted to get some follow-up feedback to ensure that they would still have a hub. From my perspective, the hub is completely separate to a community room on Lancaster Park. Like they're quite different needs. So I wouldn't have thought it would have a huge effect, but having that statement made, it would be interesting to find out what those effects are. So I don't know if you've got a follow-up for us at all.
I can, we might need to follow it up further, but my understanding of the buildings on Lancaster Park is that the conversations are being had with the sports users. So even if there was an opportunity for that facility to be used by the wider community, the primary users are the cricket and rugby clubs who are based on that park.
Yeah. So I think for us just getting some information back around any possible implications for Phillipstown hub. Yeah, thanks, Anita. I think that would be useful. If we could do that, that would be great.
Can I jump in on that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could be completely wrong. I guess my understanding of the project on Lancaster Park was, yes, some sport club rooms, and then the earmarking or the provision or the forethought of where a possible community facility could go if the worst happened at the hub. Bill, and I think that the fear is just they're actually proceeding with a community facility which would knock them out of the matrix and could possibly knock them out of consideration for it being a priority for some council funding to maintain the current site. I mean, is that wrong? Was there always going to be a community facility on Lancaster Park. I thought we were really just thinking about where one could go if Phillipstown was to stop.
I think that was what would have been ideal.
Yeah.
I don't think it progressed. I don't think it progressed beyond the sports facilities. We'll have to go
We
back
can
and
get that
we need to go
information
back and clarify.
Yeah.
But my understanding is that it hadn't progressed beyond it being for sports.
Oh, okay, cool. So it is still, yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Jake. I've got Michelle, then Tim.
This is actually, was hoping that Jake might be able to just give us a bit more information, because I know that we've discussed around the board about a central city shuttle, and there may have been a bit of movement on that the board might be interested in hearing from Jake about.
If people are,
Yeah.
I mean, just what.
Well, I am.
It's not one of those awkward segues. No, yeah, there has been a little progress. We met with ECAN last week, and they've agreed to dust off a bit of the scoping works on the shuttle, which is great. We all expressed that, the last time this piece of work was done was 2016. The world's changed. It's not just a transport project, it's economic development, it's community connectedness, putting all those layers together. So many years later, with a much larger CBD population, let's get it to a state where the next council, if they were so willing, could reinstate the shuttle. So that's a great outcome, a great potential outcome.
Cool. Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, Jake, too, because I know that it's really important to the community. So appreciate the work you've done on that.
Well, thanks, Michelle. Tim.
Yeah, I've got a question for clarification around you may remember this issue that's come up about a property that got flooded on Mount Pleasant, and then works were asked to be done. I went up to have a look early this afternoon and see how things fared after the heavy rain yesterday. And just from an amateur look, it seemed to me that the works that have been done on the road and channels, etc., that channels have been repaired, replaced, bushes been cut back, new roading bits beside the road have been made to direct the water in the right place. And it seems that those looked as though they had all worked well, just from where sediment was and wasn't. However, on the bank below the road, it looked like quite a bit of water had come out from council property and flowed down across the adjacent property into the next one. I haven't spoken to the people there yet, but the thing I'm curious about is what is council's responsibility if something that is effectively a spring, an underground spring, rather than surface water, comes out of council property and flows onto private property. Does council have a role in helping find a solution? So that's something I'd like to understand. I will be talking with the person affected in the next few days and see how they are, but that's something I'd like to know that I'll be able to give an answer to.
Cool, thank you, Tim.
The board is wishing to find out.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Are you all happy with that?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Liz. Cool. All right, I just have one more thing for elected members, information exchange. We've got the Key Christchurch Beautiful Awards coming up. So if you've got any community groups or individuals in your community that you would like to nominate for an award that have been doing good things, then you can do so through Keep Christchurch Beautiful. Just get in touch with them on Facebook. Very easy. Cool. All right. So
the area report.
So
share that, please, Jane, so that
yeah, if we could just have the information from Yanni.
Yanni, I will tidy the resolution a little.
I mean, like I said, I'm more than happy if there's things in there that staff can just do, and we can just get advice on how to progress rather than a full report coming back.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be
Yeah.
request staff advice and not just.
Yeah, or could they just go, like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it just depends on the delegations, because installing no parking restrictions is a board
It's a board
delegation.
delegation.
So I think it'd be a- and
Sure.
road landscaping berms planting is a board delegation.
Okay, so just ask for, yeah.
Ask for
so-
a report.
Okay. Oh, so if everybody can see that, are we happy for that to be added?
Happy to move.
Michelle.
Thank you,
can move it.
Michelle, well done.
But
And Tim? All in favour?
Fine.
Carrie, thank you. Okay, so we are going to come key in now, so we're going to stop our meeting. Do a cut here. And then we have a public excluded session, so we will turn it off. Yeah.
Manakia mai mātou katoa, o mātou hoa, o mātou whānau, ai o ki te